Welcome to another installment of the LNO Fireside Chat. I'm your host today, Philip Berry, calling straight in from Tesseract. Unfortunately, Austin Barkdale and Nathan Den were unable to join today. They have some things they have to attend to because they have real full-time jobs that require immediate need at all times, right? So Major Mocalis is here, joined with us on his Aether Sprint submission, and that's made significant headway in the AMC world. So if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself, Major Mocalis, and a little bit about your innovation.
Yeah, definitely. Hey, Barry, as you know, Major Nate Mocalis, I go by Mocha. I'm the Director of Innovation at Fairchild Air Force Base. So been relatively new to the innovation ecosystem. Took over in March, but we've got some major projects that we've been working on. So the one that we got accepted for, the Aether Sprint, most recently, it's the KC-135 PATR crane. So essentially, it's an onboard crane that's installed in the door of the KC-135. It allows us to organically onload and offload cargo without the use of external material handling equipment. So, which is going to be huge in the ACE environment. So, really getting after Secretary Kendall's operational imperatives, imperative number 5 of resilient basing, the ability for our aircraft to operate in the agile combat employment environment without the use of external help. So, currently, right now, to be able to get cargo on and off the plane, we're reliant upon either a K-loader or a forklift. And so with this crane, we're able to be at any airfield independent of whatever support they have on the ground.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like just from a logistics perspective as well, if you think about how many additional pallet spaces that might eliminate on a C-130 if you're moving a forklift to X location and now you're required to have a forklift to on and offload from a KC-135, 35
Absolutely.
rather.
And yeah, and the KC-135 actually has 6 pallet positions, and we're the largest fleet in the Air Force. So being able to leverage our airframe as a multi-role aircraft. So in addition to fueling the fight and being that air bridge to get our 5th-gen fighters and our bombers and the C-17s and everything else logistically into theater and across the theater, now having the ability to organically onload and offload cargo to, again, like you said, we've got the 400 aircraft, largest fleet in or largest amount of aircraft within the fleet, and being able to leverage that smartly, especially in a distributed and disaggregate environment in the Pacific Theater.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's like you're taking the MCA concept and applying it to our equipment and our weapon system, which is I think pretty cool because the constant thrash with the MCA concept is, oh, we're making our airmen do more with less, and not really. We're leveraging existing skills that we just hadn't previously seen, and you could see that with the usage on the equipment. Um, you guys have a prototype, right?
Yeah, we sure do, man. So what we've been using right now is just an off-the-shelf jib-style crane that we're able to purchase with the GPC card. And so just getting it from a commercial supplier. The problem with the commercial off-the-shelf crane is that in order to attach it to the aircraft, the attachment bolts for like the floor attachment bolts, they're spaced differently from what the jib style crane is that we got from off the shelf. So what we did is we actually applied through AFWorks and got a couple of Project Arc engineers to come out to our base, and they were able to design and prototype a base plate that's going to allow the crane to attach to our aircraft, like our floorboard attachment bolt points. And so they did a stress analysis for the test, and were able to essentially mill out a block of aluminum with enhanced strength to be able to support this lift capability. And so now we're able to utilize the current floorboard attachment bolts in the 135. So no modification to the 135 is required. And so we're able to use the current 5,000-pound attachment bolts and then attach the crane to the aircraft using this base plate. But it's an absolute game changer for us, being able to If you look at it just as a strict mission generation and sortie generation perspective, even if we have material handling equipment available and we're trying to get something off the airplane, we're going to have to wait for that ground crew to access that material handling equipment. And as anyone, so I'm a prior C-130 pilot, and so that was my bread and butter back in the when I first started, was going to different airfields or FOBs, and then oftentimes you'd be sitting on the ramp waiting for 30 to 45 minutes for the K loader to free up and to come out to you. But now with the crane, we can just go over and we park, shut down engines, open up the door, and then kick out whatever cargo that we want to offload, and then that's going to be off to the ground to move it now. But definitely allows us to rapidly regenerate that sortie so it can get back in the air and back into the fight.
That's really cool. And what I'm interested in too is we often hear, and you being head of the innovation cell where you're at, right? Like we often hear that, oh, innovation works at a certain level, but then bureaucracy shuts it down. And then I think there's been success in leveraging the two. So what kind of policies and what kind of advocacies have you guys like sought after or managed to receive in the course of like your MVP with Project Arc and AFWorks?
Yeah, so the way that this product came about, we had some individuals within the 509th Test and 509th Weapons School over at Fairchild. They're owned by ACC over at Nellis, and a tenant unit that's here co-located with us at Fairchild. So we had Sergeant Nick Souter, and he came up with this idea of, like, hey, back in the day, the 135 had this cargo crane that allowed it to lift up engines onto the aircraft. So it was able to kind of organically be sustainable to onload and offload its own cargo. But with different modifications to the aircraft, that crane eventually disappeared. Talked with individuals that are some of the really old heads that were around when this was a thing. They said that it was a real pain to set up. It just took them like a couple hours to get all the pieces set up, and it was kind of like Tinker Toys and erection set of getting everything situated. So we came up with this idea. It's like, hey, what if we just use this kind of commercial off the shelf jib style crane, and then we're able to lift currently with this prototype 1,500 pounds of cargo. And so they've been able to test a tow bar, litter patients, 500-pound bombs, AIM 120s. I'm doing this at capstone events at WISNT, integrated with the weapons school. So it's been getting some major traction and support, especially from ACC as our end user, where we're not only able to provide them with the fuel for their fight, but to be that multi-capable aircraft in providing the user with other needs and assets upon location in the ACE environment. So again, this just was an idea born from Tech Sergeant Souter, and he came to the innovation shop. He's like, hey, I got this idea. Where do we go from here? And then our innovation cell just thought this was going to be an amazing idea. So we just kind of went full throttle, started working out, the logistics for it. We're able to use our SIF funds. So for those that aren't familiar with it, it's the Squadron Innovation Funds that each unit gets on an annual basis. And so through that, we're able to purchase the equipment and kind of brainstorm with the Project Arc engineers. Again, external support provided by AFWorks, which was absolutely fantastic. And then through this partnership of the test and evaluation, gaining support at the half level, we were able to apply for AFWorks refinery project. So we got accepted into AFWorks 9th refinery cohort, and flew the team out to Washington, D.C. So had a really good 6-week program, very intensive, being able to take our minimum viable product and then incrementally identify who the stakeholders are, what is going to be our essentially our path forward, and then how to get our solution across that valley of death. So in the innovation ecosystem, you can have this fantastic idea, this awesome solution, but too often there's roadblocks and bureaucracy that kill the product and prevent it from being a truly enterprise-wide level solution, even if it is going to be a fantastic solution that's going to alleviate a lot of problems. So identifying what are going to be those roadblocks that prevent us from traveling across that valley of death, and then also integration within the SPOs over at the Tinker Air Force Base, the subject matter experts, to identify what level of testing is going to be required. The type of tensile strength testing, mechanical arm loading, and then just aircraft validation to ensure continued airworthiness. So I think that the biggest thing that we're able to get from the refinery is going to be the level of support, the connectedness, and the ability to tap in to leverage the connections that the team within AFWERX has within Air Force Futures, and to be able to tour the Pentagon and talk to key Air Force decision-making authorities. This was even actually featured. Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force had went over, and Chief Bass had shot off like a couple Facebook posts about the innovation that we're doing with the crane. So it's cool to see it just from a grassroots level, where you got a sergeant as an operator, the boom operator is like, hey, I have this idea, and then allowing that idea to blossom, and then within the innovation cell to water that idea and to give it the appropriate resources, the funding, and then the support, and then to allow that support to grow and to snowball at the greater Air Force level to all the way where it's getting briefed up to the Chief of Staff, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. But it's been awesome. And then after that, while we're at the Pentagon, Garrett Custins was working with us within the refinery. He said, hey, I think that you guys, your product would be fantastic to go over to apply for the Aether Sprint. So he gave us an introduction to Tesseract, and then we went over and took a day and then briefed our project to Tesseract. After we're done with the brief at Tesseract, the team at Tesseract said, like, hey, I think this would be a fantastic model for you guys to apply for the Aether Sprint. So they encouraged us to do that. We applied, and then here we are as a semifinalists within the Aether Sprint competition. Really looking forward to the next step in January and briefing this to the half A4, and then hopefully, if things play out, we'll be briefing as actual finalists and winners to the LOA symposium in March.
Yeah, I think, yeah. Fingers crossed, we'll get there. I think most importantly is the traction you guys have built so far and the support already, right? It sounds like everything is just moving along in the right direction. Also, correct me if I'm wrong too, but the policy piece is also moving in a positive direction with support from AMC. And then now next, we're just waiting on the program office to finalize that piece. But that's phenomenal in the way of innovation, because oftentimes there's the assumption that there isn't that kind of support. And I think the fact that AMC is heavily supporting projects like this that really get after mission-centric problems is it's a show that us as the enterprise and the innovation ecosystem are truly working together, like AFWERX to refinery to Tesseract to AMC to ACC, right? We're all trying to get after the same thing. And I think this story is like a beautiful image of that happening.
Absolutely, man. And as far as the policy goes, over at the headquarters AMC, we just got our 1067 requirement approved. So AMC validated that, yes, this is a requirement for the KC-135. Same thing within the PACAF. So Indo-PACOM stated that this is a requirement for their CONOPS. And so having two separate MAGCOMs going over and to validate this requirement, and then us providing this solution to that requirement is phenomenal. Like you're saying, just that beautiful story of an innovative idea from an operator, and then having that blossom into an actual solution that is getting policy backing, and then continue to push that forward to get further project office support from the SPO office.
Yeah, definitely. So what are the next steps? What after or during briefing the A4, what's the end goal? Like, what is like quick overhead of next steps, and then what is the end goal?
Yeah. So recently, went over and briefed this at Phoenix Rally. So it's Gentleman Hands Within AMC. He gets together with all of the wing commanders within AMC, and I was able to talk to the leader for the Weapon Systems Council for the KC-135, and talk with all the wing commanders within the 135 community, and they love this idea, this concept, and so each one of them are just asking like, "Hey, where do I get them? I want to buy it and outfit my entire fleet with this system." So again, we're just waiting on the SPO approval for that. This version 1 prototype, we've been able to validate internally at our base, but again, we need that SPO approval for it to be an enterprise-wide level solution. So we're looking for, coming out of this briefing to half A4 and out of the Aether Sprint competition, we're trying to get the funding for our version 2 prototype. So we're looking for about $600,000. We've partnered with Bunker Supply, so the Warcry department does rapid prototyping, test and evaluation, and then works with the specific program office to gain the required approvals for it. And working with Warcry and Bunker Supply, they'd be able to develop a version 2 prototype with a 3,000-pound lift capability, and that's going to greatly enhance the type of material that we'll be able to handle, and make us a lot more flexible out in the field. Once we have that, the goal is to have that price point for the end product to be purchasable from a GPC. So if we're able to do that, then we're not, so the current prototype 1 is about 6.5K. So if we're able to keep it around the $10,000 mark, so purchasable by a GPC card holder, then wing commanders and unit commanders are able to just purchase them with their normal funds. So it wouldn't be required to palm it out. And that'll allow us to rapidly get this game-changing solution into the hands of the warfighters quickest, without having to wait for a multi-year period of going through the whole bureaucracy of getting things funded through Congress.
Yeah, and I mean, it really it readies everything, right? Like going that route makes it quickly available, truly accelerating innovation and moving forward with. It's remarkable that it was a previous solution that was just kind of a lot to put together, and that we legacied that and didn't think about moving forward until a boom operator was like, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we change perspective and do what was initially a great idea? Just the pieces and all of that needed to be refined. But I think that's phenomenal. I think we're at the 30-minute mark now, Mocha. So I don't know if you have any closing thoughts or anything like that, but I really appreciate your time and joining us today. And also good luck with Aether Sprint. I think you guys are doing a great job, and with or without moving forward, I think you have significant momentum. This is going to be a great product once it's all said and done.
Hey, Barry. No, thanks a bunch, man. I appreciate you having me on the show. But more importantly, I appreciate that you and the rest of the Tesseract team on helping us out through Aether Sprint, and then allowing us to really cast this vision and to propel us forward to the next steps to making this a truly enterprise-wide level solution.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, brother.
See you.
See you.
See you.